Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Riverside Theatre's Backstage Chat. Today, we're talking with the students who've dared to perform in front of Maria Callas in the play Masterclass. Masterclass, the play by Terrence McNally, is based on the class's famed opera star Maria Callas gave at Juilliard in the early 1970s. Our production is directed by the wonderful DJ Salisbury, and our audiences know his work very well. And Maria Callas is portrayed by Tony Award-winning actress Karen Ziemba. So we're very excited that Masterclass plays our Waxlax stages, which is our intimate space, from February 4th through the 23rd as part of our 24-25 season. I'm here with Jasmine Gorsline, who plays Sophie De Palma, and Tim Courtier, who plays Anthony Condolino, if you want to go the Italian way, and Zena Ellis, who plays Sharon Graham. Welcome to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time during your rehearsals. I know you're very busy, so thank you for taking the time to talk to us and our listeners. Now, Jasmine has been here twice before in Hello Dolly and My Fair Lady. And Tim and Zena, this is your first time here. How have both of you found Riverside and Vero Beach as an introduction?
Yeah, we've loved it so far. The town is lovely, as we were just talking about before we started this. We've been exploring the nice restaurants and bars, but also the space that you have here is so beautiful and wonderful. I love the two spaces. The Waxlax is perfect for this kind of play, this kind of production.
I'm glad that first impression has been a good one, and we hope
wonderful.
It builds upon that.
Yeah.
Now, Jasmine, I'm sure changes have happened since 2019, so...
Yes, I actually haven't been here since 2017, I think. I was here for Hello Dolly and Mame.
Oh, Mame.
Yeah,
okay, I'm sorry. Yes, Mame.
So it's
I said My
strange
Fair
to
Lady,
come
I
back
apologize.
after...
Some time.
Yeah. I never expected I would be gone so long, and I'm so happy to be back.
Well, we're glad that you're part of you are family, you're all family, and we're glad when you come back, when you come home. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the three of you are students who have been selected. I don't know if that's the proper word.
Yeah.
You've been selected to perform or audition for Maria Callas. While the premise of the play is these classes, or you guys doing some music for her, it isn't necessarily about Maria Callas's life, but it does take place where her life is sort of put into these classes. Now, Jasmine, your character, Sophie, is the first one on stage.
Yes.
Tell us about Sophie and what she has to go through.
Well, Sophie arrives, and I love her. I feel bad for her. She's very a little nervous, and she has a beautiful voice. She's prepared, but maybe not as prepared as she should be, and it takes a while to get to the point where Sophie gets to sing anything, because Maria stops her quite a bit.
Well, Maria Callas was known as La Divina because of her beautiful voice, and she became a very famous opera star performing all over the world. But she was also known as a prima donna, both in the negative and positive sense. So she's exacting and very strict with regards to what she's trying to get out of the students. So Sophie is the first one to get through this part.
Yes, I don't want to give too much away, but I think a really great lesson that she does teach Sophie, or tries to, is that you better have something interesting about you as a person. You can't just be a voice. Because Sophie arrives and she says, I just want to sing. I'm not, she says, what do you feel? And she's trying to get a lot of feeling out of her and listening, and she's like, I'm not that type of singer. I just want to sing. So I think Sophie arrives thinking she's going to get maybe some praise. She's going to impress her.
She's got a beautiful voice. How could she not be
She's going to impress her. And then she's really she leaves feeling a little more defeated than she expected to.
When you realize that once you step on stage, even before singing a note, you're making an impression. So I guess she's trying to coax that out of you.
She is, and she comments on what we are wearing. I will say, it is very true to, this script is very true to real master classes. I used to do this in opera, and it's amazing how natural, it's written to be very realistic. And that, you know, someone will comment on what you're wearing in a class, and you're like, oh, okay.
Well, Terrence McNally, who wrote the play, is a tremendous storyteller, but also very detailed with what he presents on stage. So he wants to make sure that this show, this particular show about a master class, is as exact as possible.
Yeah.
Now, Xena, as Sharon, technically comes on next, but only for a brief moment and then exits.
Yes.
And the question is, will Sharon return? We'll find out. So while Sharon is off stage, then Tony, Tim, comes on stage. So what's Tony's experience with Maria Callas?
Well, Tony, in a similar way as Sophie, thinks that he can just show up and sing. We've sort of done the homework of Tony's experience in the past, and he must be someone who the rest of his professors and his teachers have told him that he's the best, that he's got a great look. Sing and you're gonna make it. And that's what's happened to him throughout his life. He just kind of shows up and things go the way that he wants. Until Maria Callas, who wants more out of her performers. And it just like you said, it really is very true to, as someone who went to musical theater school, it's the same kind of thing. I remember even in voice lessons showing up and thinking, well, I'm just here to sing. I want to work on my voice. I don't care about the acting right now. And they'd be like, no. No one cares. There's a lot of great singers out there. You have to give something personally, passionately to the song to make the music.
What makes you stand out from the crowd?
Yeah. How do you add yourself and your uniqueness to the song and to your performance? And that's what Maria is after with all these students. You can't just open your mouth and hit a note. What's behind the note?
How do you feel? I mean, Sophie felt a little defeated at the end. How does Tony feel?
Well, works out pretty well for Tony. He conquers once again. So,
yay!
Yeah, he slips through. But it comes with sort of a back and forth before we get there. There's a good tension and resolution within the scene and his moment with Maria. It's a beautiful moment. In the
So
show.
each of you have a full story
Yeah.
on stage, a beginning, a middle, and an end, in essence, before we get to the next character and so forth. And then the question we broached earlier, does Sharon, Xena, come back to stage? I mean, she makes an appearance and then she exits. Does she exit because she can't take it anymore? She's heard what's gone on. Does she have the gumption to come back and face La Divina?
You'll have to come to see why she
This is the cliffhanger.
I know, spoiler alert. But yes, eventually Sharon is able to get some notes out. And and it is quite an experience because I do feel like each of the students have their own distinct experience with Maria, or they each represent a different path through the gauntlet that is learning from her. And I think that Sharon, and you kind of figure out over the course of this scene, like Sharon leaving and mustering up the courage to come back on stage is part of why she is able to engage and really get something out of the class after all. Again, not to give too much away, but yeah, on top of everything else, there is sort of, as you said, there's the question of like, who are you? What makes you unique? How do you enter a room and and immediately bring your full self and like the full force of your personality and your artistry to it. And I think that is something that Sharon works on.
There's a line that Maria says that I didn't notice until we were in rehearsal, and then it's really stuck. It sticks with me now. She says, "You better have a high F to interpolate into your life." And she doesn't mean like a literal high F. She means like be interesting. Mm-hmm. Have something interesting to share with us. Mm-hmm. And I love it. I love it.
When you think of, I mean, you don't have to be an opera aficionado to really enjoy this show. Mm-hmm. Granted, if you know a little bit about opera and you know a little bit about Maria and her history, you can probably appreciate it a little bit more. The fact that the show is not about Maria, and yet it is about Maria. And you realize what she went through to become this person that even before she sang a note on stage, there was an excitement in a crowd. That's why she was called the Divine One, La Divina. Her voice was impeccable, and every aspect of her performance had to be impeccable. So do you feel that this play, as Maria, is trying to impart from each of you a sort of sense of impeccable presence, performance, situation, where you're at, what scene is this, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, she's taking everything that she's learned in her life and saying, if you want to make it, you're obviously in this career, you're here at this class, you want to be better, this is how you be better. You have to do the work. You have to do all of the work. And when you show up on stage, you have to be 100% every time without failure.
Someone did ask me, is Maria Callas mean to the students?
It can be interpreted that way, or it's just a passion within her that, that you have to do all of this work and you have to give it 110%. And if you don't, well, then there's a harshness to her.
The line is, if I've been harsh, it's only because I've been harsh to myself. And she holds herself to this incredibly high standard and holds everyone else to it as well. But I think there's kind of the dark side to it as well, which is, she died at age 53. Like her career was cut short because she lost her voice. And you can hear, if you listen to recordings of her, you can hear like how powerful her voice is, but also how easily, if you give that level of performance every time, it's difficult to sustain. And I think like part of, I don't know if y'all feel this too, but like sort of since COVID, there's been a shift in the industry towards more sustainability and thinking about, like, of course we are meant to give 100% on stage, but also, what are some ways that we can build in other practices around our work on stage, be that like instead of 10 out of 12s, 9 out of 12s, things like that, like different adjustments that have been made throughout the industry to allow people to rest and restore so that when we do get on stage, we can give it 100% and for a long career.
Many people have often asked me, how do they do this 8 times a week? What do you do to, I mean, your body is your instrument, your voice. What rituals do you have to sort of, keep yourself focused on what your job is, which is performing, but also making sure you take care of yourself as well? Are there any little rituals that you normally do? Vocal track, warm tea, meditate, take a nap.
The usual things, a lot of water and sleep, anything to actually, the same things that help the body stay healthy will help the voice. It all translates, the gym, staying active. I feel like you two have more of a ritual than I do. I pray. Hopefully we got it. I check in like a few like trills and we go for it.
Yeah, I'm the worst.
And that's okay. That's all right. You have something that you do
warm-ups.
to make sure that you're prepared for every performance. So that
Yeah.
because every performance is different
Yeah.
with regards to the people that are there, the energy in the room, and what have you. And God forbid anything crazy happens. Technically, every performance is different. So
Right.
everyone is coming in, audience member, with sort of expectations. So
Right.
you want to give them the best you have.
Of course.
Now it's difficult, or maybe not, in this play that neither of you are on the stage at the same time. Maybe at the
kinda
end
sad.
when you bow, take your bows. I mean, when you're each on stage, you obviously have Karen as Maria with you and Julian Bond, the wonderful accompanist who's in the show as well. But is it easier? Is it a little more difficult? Are you able to sort of root each other on from behind the stage?
I think that's been the nicest part. Is it feels like we have like our own little cheerleading section in rehearsals. The other two or other person, depends on who's there, are championing us from the sidelines.
I hadn't seen them do anything in over a week, and then I just stayed a little later after I was done, and I was like, oh, "You guys are so good!"
Yeah.
Well, I'm so
It was really
excited.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the two of us
Yeah.
we don't appear until Act 2, so a lot of Act 1 we haven't
It's just
seen.
Sophie, just
Yeah, so I'm actually really excited to see
me
it.
too.
Wonderful. Well, that's exciting. Well, I thank you for again taking the time. You're very busy, but I'm sure we want to know, how did you get started? Was there something in your lives that sort of propelled you towards this as a career? Tim, I'll start with you. Was there something that your family pushed you into it? Your sister started dance class? What? I don't know.
Yeah.
What sort of propelled you into this as a career?
Yeah, I think I talked about this recently. I had a babysitter growing up. Me and my brother were babysat by one of the teenage girls that lived right down the block from us, and she was involved in Syracuse Children's Theater. I grew up in Syracuse, New York. And so when she would come and watch my brother when my parents would go out to movies and things, she would just chat about the work she was doing with Syracuse Children's Theater. And so just through her talking about it, it kind of sparked my mind, like, oh, maybe I'll try that. So I had my parents sign me up. I did Wizard of Oz. I was a little Poppy with my little Poppy hat. And it was the most mind-blowing, incredible thing I'd ever done. The feeling of being on stage it blew my mind. And I never looked back. From there, it was right on to doing like more adult community theater, into regional theater, into going to school for it, into, making a career out of it. Here we are.
Now, you shared with me a real-life masterclass story when you were at college, correct?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, we had Patty Lapone. He did a few masterclasses actually at Ithaca, which is where I went to college. And it's extremely similar to this story. Patty is a professional in that, like Maria, she expects you to show up and be prepared, have done the homework, and give everything.
Don't waste my time.
Don't waste my time. So she was in. Some people could say that there were a few students that got up and performed for her, and maybe she was harsh, but tried to teach them valuable lessons. And kind of like Tony in this play, Patty thankfully liked what I did. I kind of got lucky, and she really responded beautifully. I sang this song from Lane the Piazza, and she broke down into tears, and it was a real highlight of my life. College had been pretty difficult for me. I didn't feel like I was gelling with a lot of the professors a lot of the time. They didn't see me as that much of a talent, but then Patty Lapone came my junior year, and it changed everything. It changed the school's perception
Stamp
of
of
me.
approval.
Yeah, it was a really, really nice moment.
Amazing.
Thanks.
Zena, what about you? What sort of got you interested?
So my mom is also a singer. She studied voice in school, and growing up, I was really involved in children's choirs, and my preschool always did a production of the Nutcracker, so that was my first experience performing, I think as a Polichinelle or a flower or something. And then And then in kindergarten, I got to play Clara in The Nutcracker, which is extremely exciting. And yeah,
No vocal in that.
I know, which was wild. And now I'm so extremely not a dancer, it's not even funny. But yeah, sort of just kind of continuing up through the choir, and my choir teacher is putting on a musical. Isn't that great? And just, yeah, like deep love of music, deep love of storytelling. For a minute in high school, I thought I was going to become an engineer or something, and then in college I thought about double majoring in econ, but ultimately I couldn't turn it off, and I just had to follow the creative life and all of its highs and lows. Yeah,
Your passion for the arts superseded anything else.
exactly.
That's great. Here you are. Jasmine?
Well, I think I told you this in 2016, but I grew up in Alaska, and I was a child actor in Alaska. Yeah.
Cool.
I did commercials. I was pretty terrible, but I loved it. And, then my family moved to Washington, and I remember in high school I started taking voice lessons because I just was always really into it, into singing and performing and putting on shows for my family, you know, like some kids do, and forcing my siblings to do it with me. And I remember I started, taking voice lessons and really focusing on classical training, and we were coming back from a voice competition, and my voice teacher, who I'm still friends with today, said, "You know you can do this for a living, right?" And I was like, I can? And I was sort of slow to figure that out. Then I went to school for opera, and then I went to grad school for opera. And while I was in grad school in Rochester, I started driving to the city for musical theater auditions. And I was like, but that's what I want to do. So I never actually did the opera, but I did things like these master classes. Like, this is so familiar to me. And I actually saw the national tour of this play while I was an opera student. And I was like, I want to do that play.
Wow.
Because I know that play. I know that. So this is pretty special.
So you do have the opera background, you can say. Foundations.
Yeah.
Do either of you have any sort of opera in your studies from college?
A lot, I mean, maybe this is the same for you, but a lot of like your early voice lesson repertoire includes your 24 Italian songs and arias. So a lot of the foundational singing training for a lot of people is classically influenced. And I think also like coming up through choir, there are certain elements of choral singing that carry over into operatic technique. I do study with like one specific teacher for classical and then another teacher for more musical theater contemporary stuff. So it's like, there's some bel canto,
Yeah.
but it's a spectrum. So.
Yeah, and I think legit musical theater sort of leans opera a decent amount of the time. I've done a decent amount of Les Mis in my life, so that is opera leaning.
Sure.
So I think just keeping the voice in that space.
But like we mentioned earlier, you don't have to know a lick about opera
Right.
or even Maria Callas per se to come and really enjoy the show.
Oh, yeah.
Is there something that you would love our audiences to feel when they leave, or hoping that they experience something when they're watching the show?
I was thinking about this in regards to my family's going to come see the show, and I'm really excited for them to have a glimpse into how the performing world works. Like, this almost feels like a little bit like a behind the scenes of how an actor gets to be performance ready.
Correct.
The master class is exactly how a lot of my acting through song classes went at Ithaca. So I think I would like the audience to just have a better understanding of how much performers give and have to work on the craft to get to the level that they are.
It's not just getting up there and
It's
singing.
not just getting up there and hitting a note. It's
Right.
not.
Right. Especially in musical theater or in opera, grand opera, you're embodying a character, and that character is within this setting, and you have to fit not only the character but the setting as well.
Right.
Something that I don't know if this is a takeaway. Well, I do think it is a takeaway. It's really, I don't want to give away too much because you have to come to see it, but there are moments where Maria is giving us a glimpse into her personal life while we hear her glorious singing. And it's just so, and some of her personal life was tragic and painful.
Yes.
And the idea that as performers we can be going through some really heavy duty stuff in our own lives, but then we come out and tap dance, you know? And it's just really kind of like, like, I don't know. It makes me proud to do what we do, but it's also sort of like, it gives a full picture of like, you know, you just have to come see it.
It's a great teaser.
Yeah.
It's a great teaser.
Yeah.
You can't miss this.
Yeah.
And we know, since it's in the Waxlack stage, our intimate space, seats are limited. And I know for a fact that it will sell out. So anyone listening, you must get tickets early. Masterclass plays February 4th through the 23rd. So please come and get your tickets. Any final words for people other than come and see the show?
Excited to see you all there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jasmine, Zena, Tim, for taking time out of your busy rehearsal schedule to talk to our audiences about this great show. Please, everyone, get your tickets early, February 4th through the 23rd. You will not be sad that you've seen the show. You'll be sad if you miss the show, that's for sure. So Riverside Theater's Backstage Chat is a podcast where we get to talk to some of the talented artisans who work on and around our stages. Again, thank you, three. Thank you to executive producer John R. Moses and artistic director Alan D. Cornell for their vision and leadership. Until next time, I'm Oscar Sales.